This is Office Hours with Rob and Jennifer. Yeah, so while you're joining, if you want to just put in the chat where you're joining us from. Donna, I haven't seen you in a long time. Great to see you here. Diana is joining from Northern California. Another Jennifer joining from North Carolina. Jeffrey from Seattle.
Switzerland. That's pretty cool.
Ooh, Chris from Switzerland. Rob, every one of these webinars, I always try to find like the person that's in the most exotic or faraway place. Chris from Switzerland. That might be it.
Yeah, this morning I was talking to someone from Birmingham, England. So I'm not sure what time it was that I was talking to them. They sounded tired, so I imagine it was later in the day for them.
Yeah, I bet. All right. Well, Rob, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you get started, introduce what this new webinar is, and let you take it from there.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Jennifer. Hello, everybody. I'm Rob. I've been with Rise Vision for this past February, 20 years. I was very happy when Jennifer brought up doing this webinar because I've answered a lot of questions through the years, and I wanted to bring a lot of the more common questions that I get, and I wanted to be able to kind of show off and show them in action here during this. One of the first things that I wanted to show off, and that's the reason I've got this screen behind me that says Rob with Rise right now. This monitor behind me is something a lot of schools or a lot of locations have. They're commonly referred to as IFPs, which stands for Interactive Flat Panel, where these might be in a classroom and the teacher could be doing all sorts of work on the display, but you want morning announcements, any sort of alerts, be it CAP alerts or be it these alerts that we call override schedule alerts. You want those to be able to pop up and show, but the teacher doesn't want to have to do anything. The teacher is doing their stuff and it pops up automatically when you send those alerts. So I wanted to show everybody how to do that because that's a question we get a lot. So I am going to share my screen here for a moment. And this is my test company that I have. So I'm just going to go over to presentations, and I've got a presentation that says safety alerts. This one says warning lockdown, but it could of course be any sort of presentation that you want to begin showing on your display at a set time. So I've created my presentation. And in this case, I've got a schedule that I'm calling an announcements override schedule. And this override schedule, currently, it's set to go from 1:10 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. and only on today. Now, you could change this to whatever you wanted. I always like to bring up the example. Let's say the superintendent of the school or the president of the company or something. It's currently 1:03 p.m. You found that they're going to be here at 1:05 p.m. and you want every single display to start saying, welcome Superintendent Johnson or welcome President Johnson, or whatever you wanted the screen to say. How do you immediately get all screens doing that? If you have a whole bunch of different schedules going to a whole bunch of different displays, you don't want to have to go into every single schedule and remove all the other stuff, add this one, and then save that, and then remove all the other ones and save it to every single schedule. So instead you have what we call an override schedule. And you'll notice with this one, again, set to go from 1:10 to 1:30, only on today. And we've got two override options here, replace and include. A replace override schedule. This is what you're going to want to use when it's morning announcements, when it's something that you want people to stop seeing all the other content that's normally displaying on the screen and only show this. That's when you use a replace. An include, I always like to use the example of birthdays. So let's say you've got 12 different presentations, one for all January birthdays, one for all February, March, et cetera, et cetera. You would create an include schedule and set it to only show from, we'll use the example, this is the May birthdays, only from May 1st to May 31st. And then what happens is all the displays continue showing the content that's currently assigned to them in the schedules that they're planned. And then they also include whatever presentations I add to this. So they play their regular content, include this content, play their regular content, include this content. Whereas a replace is going to stop showing whatever presentations they were currently showing, and they're going to change to whatever presentations I add right here. So in this case, it's going to be our safety alert warning. And I'm going to change it. I don't want to have to everybody to wait until 1:10. I'm going to change it to be immediate. So I'm going to set that to show all the time. And let's move this so I can press save. And I'll see if I can do it fast enough. So I press save. And now I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Oh, I didn't catch it in time, but it was before where it was showing that Rob with Rise message. It's now because I set it to be a replace schedule. It was showing nothing. It was letting the teacher do all their work and use what, if they've got their laptop connected, if they're using the IFP itself, it stops showing that content and immediately overrides it with whatever announcement I put into that replace schedule. So it's a quick way to, in this case, it would be a lockdown, but you could use it for intermittent weather. You could use it for welcome Superintendent Johnson, whatever it is, but that's exactly how it would work.
Yeah,
This
Donna has a good question. So this only works when you have your displays in your display list, right? She says, I share morning announcements using the share code and don't have all my classroom displays in my list.
Yes, correct. So it would have to be a display.
It'd have to be a licensed display. Is that correct, Rob?
Correct. Yep, exactly. It would have to be a licensed display. But the one important thing to note is it doesn't need to be currently running the Rise player. So the Rise player doesn't need to currently be up on the screen. The teacher could be doing whatever they're doing. And then when it's time for morning announcements, you set them to say go at 8 o'clock in the morning. As long as it's a licensed display and as long as the Rise player has been installed on it. So it doesn't need to be actively running, but it needs to be installed on it. That's what will happen. It'll pop up when you tell it to pop up. And when the morning announcements are done, all that sort of stuff, the teacher wants to get back to what they were doing before. With IFPs, you can just click on the home, but the teacher could just go back to what they were doing before. They could just close the Rise player from just swiping up at the bottom and then just go back to what they were doing before.
Okay. So Rob, Donna, she only has 3 licensed displays. You might not recall, but she's at a smaller school district. We actually did a case study talking about Donna. But anyways, small school only has 3 licensed displays. So in this case, having that override into the classroom would only work if she had unlimited or had all of those classroom displays as a licensed display, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, there are ways to do it that are less reliable. Exactly like she brought up with that share code, but this is the one way to get it to work reliably every morning when you've got those announcements.
And this is the only way like an emergency alert would go out as well, right?
Yes. Yeah. The emergency alerts are going to be something we talk about in a second. Those are called CAP alerts. The CAP alerts are an entirely different system. They're not unique to Rise. CAP alerts can be sent by a CAP provider to any device that can receive them. Your licensed Rise Vision displays, they'll show the CAP alert message that you set up through Rise Vision, but you could send a CAP alert through email, text, and a web page. But again, those machines would need to be programmed to pop that web page up. So it's a lot easier to just do them on licensed displays.
So Donna, I think that the way that you're working right now with sharing the share code is probably the best bet because you only have the 3 licensed displays. But if you had an unlimited license for your school or you had it a little bit bigger, it would make a little bit more sense for that override.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Rob, you jumped right into the content. So I just want to remind everybody. So this session is going to be led by the audience and everybody who has questions. So if you have a question, please drop it in the chat and we can answer it live right now. And then the session will also be recorded and sent out. Anyways, back to you, Rob.
Yep. We introduced this, oh my goodness, I think less than a month ago. And it's a request that we've had for a long time from people, and that's the ability to use their own custom fonts. So I'm going to go to a presentation here. You know what? I'll create a brand new one. So I'm just going to click add presentation and I'll use, what's a good one here? I'll use the employee milestones and achievements just as our example here. So we've got our employee milestones and achievements presentation. We've got our text right here celebrating our stars. Now, what if you're a organization that has a custom font that's unique to the school, unique to the company, unique to the university, or it's just one that the marketing team has agreed upon? This is the font that we want showing on all of our content. Previously, we didn't have the ability to use custom fonts, and now they can. So the way that they would do that is, and this could be with you're adding a new text item, you're editing the text of an existing presentation. It works the same way. So we just select the text that we want to edit. And in this font dropdown right here, we've got a whole bunch of different Google fonts. So if we set it over to Oswald, there's an obvious one. It changes over to Oswald. That wasn't much of a change. But let's say that we want to go with a custom font. We would select custom. That's not what I selected. Oh, sorry. Custom fonts. Notice how there's no custom fonts there. I need to add the font first. So we click add font. And there are 3 different options here. A lot of fonts, specifically, they're called TTF or true type font files. The file is a lot of places they have it on their website or they have it at a specific location. So any content that's using that font can derive it all from that one location. You could put that URL in here, and then that font is now available for you to use. Or if you've got the font on your machine as a true type file, you could upload it. And that's what I've done. So I'm going to actually select mine from storage. So all I do is I click select from storage. Mine is in a folder called fonts. And I'm going to use the one called, we're going to go into Orabesh. If you're a Star Wars nerd, you know what Orabesh is. I'm going to select the Orabesh one, hit add selected. And now that font is available. And notice now it's listed in custom fonts. That's the font that's selected. If I ever want to stop using that font or make it no longer available, I can remove it from here. And that's it. Any of the font that you wanted to update now, notice how your custom font is now available, and you can change the font in any of your presentations to that custom font. All you got to do is set it up once, and then it'll always be there moving forward as a font that's available to you.
Of course, you would choose that font.
Yeah, that was, you know what? I always chose that font because it is so definitely different than anything else that I was like, all right, that now I can definitely tell that this font has changed.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you uploaded that font file, so I guess for some people, if marketing or whoever in your organization is, yeah, this is the font that we use and you have to download it or get it somehow, where are you saving that in your storage? Are you just saving it in the general storage, or did you save it somewhere specific?
Yeah, I created a folder. So let's say you've got several fonts that you might be working with in different scenarios or for different organizations, whatever. I created a folder called fonts. And you'll notice they're all listed here. Let me list these as a list instead of thumbnails. They're all just listed as TTF. It stands for True Type fonts. And then I have this Orabesh one that has all different ones, bold and condensed and whatnot in there. One thing that's very important, and we bring that up if you add them as a URL, fonts can be copyrighted. So a specific school might have their own designed font that school uses, and it's not available for download like this. It's only available at that URL. In those cases, that's where you want to use that URL option. You add that, you store this TTF file, you know, it's stored on a website or on a domain somewhere that you can access. That's where you'd add it as a URL, and it works the exact same way. The only difference here is I uploaded it to storage. The other way would work just the same. I'm just referring to it from the URL.
Very cool. Yeah, I think the custom fonts are great. It's just so nice to have that option, especially if your organization has those standards that they want to follow.
And that was really what made a lot of people want this for a long time, is exactly that. They want the content that they're seeing up on their displays to match the marketing information that they're emailing to people, mailing to people. They want it to all look the same.
Yeah, the font matters. All right. Rob, you have your first question, second question, but Irene is going to come on. I'm going to change it so she can talk and she can ask a question. She's asking a question about PowerPoints.
Sure.
All right. Irene, welcome. You're muted. Come on and ask your question.
You hear me?
Yep,
Yes.
we can hear you. How are you, Irene?
So we have one display outside of our dining hall that we should on it. Numerous slides and put on it. So I always save it to the storage, and then I go to presentations to add my PowerPoint, and I pick add PowerPoint. And then I have that screen that says, it's like gray, that says, welcome to our document display.
Yep.
And it has the blue line on the bottom. After I add it, that display, if I go look on the screen, this welcome to our display sometimes pops up in between slides or right before my PowerPoint. I don't know how to get rid of it.
All right. Yeah. And I think I know exactly what's going on there. So I'm going to do the same thing. Click add presentation. And I'll go to, where's PowerPoint here? But if I use PowerPoint, just like this. So this welcome to our document display, that's just a sample image that gets added. So when you add PowerPoint, we know this is the PowerPoint presentation, is the long and the short of it. What I've seen happen is people will add it and they'll be like, awesome. And now I'm going to go and I'm going to select my PowerPoint file from storage, because I know I've got one here or somewhere, and they add it. And this is exactly, you know, what you've been doing all along. And you're like, oh, awesome. Here's my PowerPoint file. This is great. But if you were to put this on a display right now, so if I was to go to my schedule and go to all displays and go to add playlist item and add this presentation, and there's my PowerPoint one. If I was to do this right now with that PowerPoint file, it would show me that welcome to our document display. The reason it's doing that is because I've added my PowerPoint file, and when I'm looking at it here in the editor, everything looks correct, but I haven't pressed that publish button yet. That publish button, the best way to think of the publish button is that's what pushes any changes that I'm currently making. That's what pushes it out, pushes those changes out to the screen. This way it allows you to, oh, you know what? Okay, that PowerPoint file's wrong. I'm going to add this one and add that one, and I'm going to change this around and change that around. And then you don't want people seeing all those different changes that you've been making. Only once you've got it exactly how you want it, you press that publish button. That's what pushes those changes out to the screen. Yes, I know I don't have it in the schedule, but that's what pushes those changes out to the screen. What I think is happening is that welcome to document display. You created the PowerPoint presentation. It was added to a schedule. You came back here, you made the changes, added your PowerPoint, all that sort of fun stuff. But if you didn't press publish, it's always going to be showing that kind of previous unpublished version. Then once you press publish, that's what pushes that change, your PowerPoint slides to start showing up.
Okay, thank you. I'll have to try that.
Yeah. And if you do run into issues, be sure to just email us support@risevision.com or help@risevision.com. Email one of those and we'll get it figured out.
I feel like I have hit publish, but I'm not going to swear to it.
Yeah, and if you did publish, then yeah, definitely bring that up to the support guys. That way they can track it down a lot better than I can here, and they can figure out exactly what's going on. The good news is if we send that over and we're like, oh, we found a way that they were able to get that to happen, we get that over to our dev team. The dev team fixes it and it goes away for everyone and goes away, especially for you moving forward.
Thank you.
Cool, no problem.
All right, Irene, thank you so much. If you do look into it and you do have issues, feel free to email support and they can help you out. Next up is sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Fee, I want to remove certain presentations from being displayed, but still want to save them for future use. What's the best way of doing that?
So if you want to remove them, and this is a question I've gotten a lot. So let's go use my testing schedule right here. Now notice with my testing schedule, I've got all of these different presentations that are in the schedule, and if I'm understanding what you're wanting to do is I don't want to delete these. Like I don't want to delete the actual presentation. I just want to remove it from the rotation in the schedule. If you were to, so this testing MP4 from storage, if I was to delete that presentation from the playlist and then press save, it's removed from this playlist right here. It's removed from the schedule's playlist, but the presentation still exists. There it is, MP4 and storage. The presentation, if you remove it from a schedule, that doesn't delete the presentation. It just removes it from the playlist of that schedule. So that presentation is always going to be there. Now, I wonder if, just to follow that up, I wonder if your question might be that, hey, we've got a ton of different presentations. This list is humongous. I just want to remove some of these from seeing them. I want to get rid of them so I'm not seeing them and I can edit on these 20, 30 other presentations that I'm working on. That is a request we've gotten a lot. I'd say probably our biggest request. And it's something that our UX team is working on right now where I think it's in the later quarters of this year, the Q3 or Q4 of this year, but we're going to be introducing folder functionality where users can, let's say you've got 100 different presentations and you're like, I want to put these 90 into a folder, and that folder will be down at the bottom called not using right now or whatever. And only these 10 that are at the top, these are the ones that I'm actively using. That's what this folder functionality is going to allow you to do. It's going to allow you to be able to put stuff similar to how you do it in storage. Right now, you can create a folder, put those presentations in it. They're not deleted. They're just in that folder. So you don't have to see them while you're actively working on your other presentations. So yeah. I know it's very long-winded. Hopefully that was the answer you were looking for.
Yeah, so basically you can remove them from your schedule, but you still have that presentation in your presentations list.
Yep, exactly. Removing it from a schedule does not delete the presentation. It just removes it from the schedule's playlist.
All right. I think that might have answered the question. Oh, yeah. It says that's exactly what I'd like to find out. Thank you for addressing. All right. So next question is from Peter. Oh, this is a really good question, actually. Is there a way to share custom presentations between subcompanies?
There is. Yeah, I've got, I believe, 2 subcompanies, 3 subcompanies. Perfect. So let's say I want to create a presentation in what we commonly refer to as the parent, and I want that presentation to be available to all of my subcompanies. It's got my custom fonts, it's got my custom images, my logo, all that sort of fun stuff. So what I'll do is I'll use this PowerPoint full screen. I'm going to use this one as my template. So in the parent, I go to this presentation, and next to the name of the presentation, I click on these 3 dots. And one of those options in here is Save Presentation as Template. And when I select that, this little selector comes up and says, hey, this company, meaning the company I'm in, and all subcompanies can use this presentation as a template. I select yes. And I'm going to make it even more obvious. I'm going to click on the name, and I'm going to call it Robb's PowerPoint Template, just like that. And perfect, I've got it. I've set it to be a template. The one important thing that a lot of people forget is once you've made this change, be sure to go and press publish, because you have to save those changes that you've made, right? We're not going to add it to a schedule. We're doing this because we want it to be a template. So now I'll go into Leslie's Bakery as the example here, but this would be any user, eh? So any user that belongs to any of those subcompanies, they would go to their presentations page, click add presentation. And here's the important part is they need, oh, where's my, I should be seeing a little option right there. I wonder why it's not coming up. Oh, that's right. I don't think this company has a license. They do not. That's why. Sorry, that was my mistake. So what would basically happen, and I'll do it in my parent company here. And this raises a good point. Any subcompanies that wanted to use that template, they need to have license displays. They need to have an active subscription, I guess is the best way to say it. Because what they'll do is in those subcompanies that have active subscriptions or a subscription shared from the parent, they would go to add presentation, and they'll see this little shared templates option right here. You'll click on shared templates, and you'll see this Robb's PowerPoint template. One thing our UX team is planning to update in the future, I can't say with certainty when it's going to be, is this, instead of being this kind of default thumbnail, will be an actual thumbnail that it grabs of that presentation once that option is selected to change it to a template. It'll grab a picture of that and use that as the picture right there. You can have as many as you want, and then you're in a subcompany, you want to use this template, you just click the plus button, and it creates a copy of that template in your subcompany, and you can do with it as you need to do with it. But yeah, very important to note that subcompany, all those subcompanies need to have an active subscription either for that subcompany or being shared from the parent.
So Rob, that was an example of how to share like a template. So that template then can be edited by that subcompany and to put on place, right?
Yeah, and important to note, when they create a copy of it and edit it, that's not editing anything in the parent company. That's not editing your original template you created. Every time they create a copy of that presentation, they're only editing their copy of that presentation.
All right. Tim wants to take this a little step further. Is there a way to automatically include that shared template into the active schedule of his subcompanies? So Tim is saying the current workflow requires me to add to the schedule in each subcompany, or add that presentation to each subcompany, which there's about 10. So it takes quite a bit of time. How can he streamline that workflow?
What I would suggest doing in that case is it requires either an unlimited or enterprise license. But what you could do is instead of having all your subcompanies have their displays, and those subcompanies want to continue having those displays, right? They're managing stuff. You've got users in those subcompanies managing their own stuff, but you from the parent, you want to be able to put something on every one of those displays in those subcompanies. How do we do that? Best way to do it would be to manage that from the parent. So what you do is we'll go over to schedules, and I'm going to create a brand new schedule, and I'm going to call it Subcompany Include Schedule. And the presentation that I want in there is, here we are, employee milestones. Perfect. So I want this presentation to show on all of my subcompany displays. I want them to show all of their regular content. They've got their own content that they're showing, but then I want them to include whatever I add in here. And I'm sure some people have already put it together. From override, I would select include. So now what happens is all of those displays in the subcompanies that we'll be looking at in just a second are going to play all their regular content and then include whatever I add in here. Play the regular content, include this. Play the regular content, include this. And the way that we set it to go on subcompanies is I do not select show on all displays. I click on no display selected. And then you'll notice there's a little option up here, select displays from all companies. I turn that on. And now I can see the displays in the subcompanies underneath me. And I can check all of those displays. And if I had more subcompanies, more displays in those subcompanies, they'd be all listed here. But I can see all of those displays. I can hit apply. And now from the parent, I don't need to go to all those subcompanies and manage any schedules in there. From the parent, I can put content on those displays that is included as well as their regularly scheduled content. I hope that answers the question. We get that question a lot. And yeah, with limited enterprise, that's exactly how I suggest doing it. Another good way of why you would want to do it this way is that way nobody can edit that content. They can't decide one day, I don't want that to be on the display anymore and just take it off. They have no way to modify this content. It's entirely managed and edited in the parent company.
All right. Tim says it's perfect. And this is perfect for him. So I'm super glad to hear that. Tim, I believe if I'm recalling correctly, you are in South Carolina. So if you have any questions, Rob will be your guide to reach out to. So you can shoot us an email. I do want to go in order, but some of these questions are all just related. So Rob, sticking with the subcompany question, Chris is wondering, can I move content to a subcompany, not just share a template? So I guess this would be like if you have a presentation or you have some assets or something, how would you share those down to subcompanies easily?
That's something that we are, and let me back up. Right now, users don't have the ability to, and here, I'll show you here. So let's say I'm like, you know what? These 3 presentations here, I want to copy them over to my subcompany, right? I want to, or basically copy them over to the subcompany and then delete them from the parent. Same thing with storage or schedules or whatever. Right now, only Rise Vision has the ability to do that. You'll notice there's a copy option right there that has a little Rise Vision logo next to it. That means it's only available for people that are over Rise Vision. We are considering the ability of allowing users to be able to do it. It's just we're looking at anything that could go wrong and how to deal with that if something does go wrong type of thing. So it is on the drawing board. It is less on the drawing board and more on the to-do list. So hopefully that's what you're looking to do, but I have a bad habit of babbling. This is something we are looking to introduce for users to be able to do, not having to rely on Rise Vision to do it.
All right. Okay, Rob, I want to jump in. So we have a couple of questions about some of the pre-made templates and changing like the font and the font sizes and how to change the logo size. So could you just pull up like a pre-made template and I can ask some of these questions that we've got?
Yeah, I'll use a brand new instead of that milestone one.
Yeah, let's use a fresh one.
And let's use, what's a good one that has a logo and everything? Here we are, Teacher Appreciation Month.
Oh yeah, May is Teacher Appreciation Month. Perfect. All right. So Diana says, I love the pre-built templates. Awesome. But the font and font sizes are not changeable. Is there a way to adjust that, or is that something that might be in the future? So I think that most of the components on these templates, including like the font, should be edited. But Rob, can you just show Diana really quick how to change the font and the font sizes?
Yep, I'm glad we chose this one. This one's a good example. So notice we've got a teacher takes an opens a mind and this little animation here. These are and it's weird to say they look like text, but they're actually not text. They're actually images that are being moved on that presentation. So you wouldn't be able to edit that. So notice even if I click on it, when I click on it, nothing happens. I can't edit that text. This one here where it says thank a teacher, that's the tagline over here. I can click on this and exactly the same as I did before, this is where I can start changing it to a custom font and I can change the text if I want to say, and I can edit the size so we can make it, 40. I want to make it smaller. Oh, got to be between. Oops. And yeah, sorry, that was the reason I wanted to select that is they determine exactly how big the text can be to fit in this location. That's why you can't go bigger than the fit. Fit between 50 and 75? Yeah, between 50 and 75. So if I was to make it 75, that's as big. and I can scale the text right there. So I can make it bigger or lower, however, in that window right there. I can change the font, I can change the justification, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Having said that, let's say that I wanted to add a big window of text to this presentation. There is a way to do that. And here's how I would suggest doing it. Let's say you just need something to look bigger. Where it says tagline right here, I would click on these 3 dots and choose to hide. So that hides the text on that window. It doesn't get rid of that purple, which is frustrating, but it hides all of that text. What I'd then do is I would go to where it says components, click on that little green plus button and select text. Now I'm just going to put in, hello, I am text, just like that. And it's a little hard to see because it's all black. So I'm going to change it to white, just like that. Perfect. Now I can move this wherever I want, right? So I'm going to put it right here. But the cool part of this is I can make this as big as I want. So if I want to make it 200, there it is. And got to make that a bit stretch out of it. There we are. My point I'm just trying to get at is if the existing text that's in the presentation that is editable, like this stuff here, like I said before, is not editable, but the stuff that is editable, if you can't get it to the size that you need it, either small or big, my suggestion is just to hide that specific text item, add a component. And what's cool about these, let's say you've got like 10 different components. You don't want them all to just be the text that's actually in it. You could click on these 3 dots, choose to edit label, and call this text over purple or whatever. Color whatever you want it to. That doesn't change the actual text that's there. It just changes the name of it here. And then you could, you know what? I don't like it here. I want to move it up here. Or I want to move it down here, whatever. That's how I would suggest getting text to be the exact font, the exact size, the exact color that you want. Hide what's in the existing presentation if you're able to hide it, and then just add something on top of it like that.
Amazing. Great little workaround too, if you need more space. Stacy wants to know, how can I increase the size of our logo?
Great question. So that's the exact same principle. So I'll use this presentation doing the exact same thing. So let's say logo, and it's just not big enough. I need it to fill this entire window here. I'd go to where it says my logo. I'd hide it by just clicking these 3 dots, choose to hide, and notice the logo disappears. And now I do the exact same thing I did for the text. Difference is it's going to be for the logo. So I'll click plus, choose image, select it from storage because I've already got the logo in storage. And I do not remember what it's called, but I know it's in here somewhere.
Called logo?
Is it? I wonder if it is too. Let's do the white.
It has logo in there, which is good.
Yeah, logo. Yeah, should have just searched for that. But now, same thing. Now it's added, and I can make it as big as I want to and move it exactly where I want to. We introduced this component functionality, oh man, I want to say about longer than 6 months ago. And everybody I talk to and I show them how to do it, they're like, oh man, I didn't know I could do that. I'm like, oh yeah, it's a great thing where you can get it looking exactly as you need it to. And yeah, the logos being too small is something I've heard before. And that's how I always suggest making it bigger.
Yeah. I want to say with the logos though, so if you're uploading your logo into your brand settings, make sure that your logo, make sure you don't have a bunch of padding or margin on that logo file. Make sure it's as big as it can be, and make sure it has a transparent background. I see that all the time when people have like the white background on their logo. If you upload it with a transparent background, it's going to look so nice.
Yep. Exactly.
We have one more question about like the fonts and stuff. So Bridget says some of the templates use all caps in the titles, and this is against our accessibility best practices. Is there a way to disable this?
Oh, that's a good question.
I don't think there's a way to disable it currently, but I think it's a really good point, Brandon, about accessibility. So I'm going to bring that up to our UX team. But Rob, maybe you can show us how to change that on it.
Yeah, that's a great point. There's no way to change it. And this is the first example that came to mind is that one. They're all caps, even though they're all lowercase here, they're all going in as uppercase there. So if I do, they're all capital.
Yeah.
So that's a great, yep. Yeah, and that's the, change that, sorry. That's, something that's built into the presentation that I think that's something, Jennifer, to bring up to the UX team over here to change that. I don't think changing the font would change that unless, if you're a big Star Wars geek, if you changed it to a font like that, no one's going to know what's capitalized or not. But whatever font, even if you were to add a custom font and select a custom font, it would always be, oh, nope, I lied. Oh, that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
I
That's
think
great.
it's the font in the design. So I
Yeah.
guess you can change the font. You might be able to rewrite the text with lowercase because it might just be pulling that all caps from the text itself.
Yep. Yeah. It forced it to be cap, but I'm wrong, and I'm happy to be. But yeah, that's how you do that. One of the ones that's got those oh my goodness, all caps. Just select. You could add a custom font. Select one of the Google fonts that's available there, and these Google fonts, we update that pretty often. So just select a different font, and then you'll be able to put that in with the lowercase. That's great. I didn't know we could do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I will take that to the UX team because I think it's a good point, but that's a good couple of workarounds for that. Okay. We have so many really great questions and so little time. From Matthew, some of the new buildings in our district are using Valcom intercom systems for campus communication. I've been told that it works with Rise Vision. Would you mind going over how to incorporate the Valcom system in Rise?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what Valcom is. If Valcom is like an alerts provider, the way that all alerts provider work are this exact same way. So I can show you that. And I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, Valcom would be a tool that, hey, we've got to send out an emergency alert, is what CAP commonly refers to them as. We have to send out an emergency alert and we need it to show on all displays. The way that it would work is you go to CAP alerts, this option right here. And with CAP alerts, it's turned off by default, just like this. So you just have to turn it on. And there's a big body of text in here. Don't let that scare you. Caps are extremely simple things.
Rob, what is a CAP alert is one of the questions that's popped up.
Yeah, that's a great question. So a CAP alert, it stands for Common Alerting Protocol. And if anybody's ever gotten like an Amber Alert on their phone, that's sent out as a CAP alert. A CAP alert just allows so a school would have a CAP provider, Informacast, could be Valcom. I'm not sure if they're a CAP provider. There's punch alerts. There's all sorts of them out there. You would use we'll use Informacast as the example here. You would go to Informacast. Oh, there's a fire. There is inclement weather coming, tornado coming, whatever the alert that you want to send to your digital signs. You could send it via email. You could send it to text. That's how we all got those Amber alerts. We get them sent as CAP alerts to our cell phone companies. They have a CAP provider that sends out that CAP alert. The exact same thing with Rise Vision. You would just set up your CAP provider. We'll use Valcom. You would just set up Valcom. Valcom says, okay, where do I send this alert? You say, this is where you send this alert. They're commonly referred to as endpoints. So in Valcom or Informacast or whatever, you add an endpoint. It's called a CAP endpoint. You have different options of endpoints. You have SMS, which is text, email, or CAP. You say, I'm adding a CAP endpoint. You put in this endpoint. Then Rise Vision is just sitting there listening every second, listening. When an alert gets sent out, so you jump into Valcom, you're like, hey, fire on premises, evacuate the building. You send out that alert from Valcom. Your Rise Vision players hear that alert sent to this endpoint, we call the web service URL. They immediately stop showing whatever they're currently showing, and whichever of these alert templates that you use, we'll use this one as the example, they stop showing what they're showing and immediately pop this up. And the text, alert headline, description, and instructions, a little hard to see there, they're replaced with whatever text you sent from your CAP provider. So if the alert headline you sent was fire on premises, instead of saying alert headline, it says fire on premises. Description is please evacuate to the south building. That all gets updated with whatever that text is in that alert that you're sending out. It shows that and only that on the screen until you tell it to stop. Once you stop sending that alert, it says, great, it stops the CAP alert and goes back to the regularly scheduled program. And one quick thing I want to bring up, because I know this is a question that we got a lot until we introduced it. If you're a parent company and you've got a whole bunch of subcompanies, do I need to set this up for every individual subcompany? You do not have to do that. What you would do is you would uncheck show on all displays in this company, click no display selected, and exactly the same way as we were talking about putting scheduled content onto subcompany displays, the exact same thing here. You could check this and then select, excuse me, only your subcompany displays. But I'm sure some of you are saying, Rob, I've got 100 different displays in my subcompanies. I don't want to individually have to go check them. That's no problem. You can choose to show on all displays in my subcompany and show on all displays in subcompanies. That way you send that alert it begins showing on all displays in the parent and all displays on all of the subcompany screens.
We have a really great video on YouTube that talks about the cascading cap alert. So if you're looking for more information about that, it is on our YouTube. All right, Rob, are you ready for the next question? We have Dee Dee. She's coming on camera to ask her question about how to see what's on monitors without having to be in front of the display. All right, Dee Dee. You're muted. If you want to unmute yourself, you can come and ask your question.
Hello there.
I am wanting to know, I have screens across campus and sometimes you work remote. You can't go in front of the screen every day. So if there's a problem with a template or how something's displaying, I'm not seeing it on by the display screen. Also, if power goes off, comes back on, is there a way to see what date and time is set on the individual monitors?
So that's a great question. That's something I get a lot, and I always like to answer that in two parts. So the first one is, what's on my displays right now? I want to know what's going there. Exactly like you said, there's a power outage. I don't know if my screens have come back up. I've hoped they've come back up. What's on the screen? So I come over to my displays page, and if you wanted to look at subcompany displays as well, you could slide the show on all subcompanies and we could see everybody in here. But all I care about right now is my displays and how they look. Any display that's currently offline, so we'll use Apple TV. If you see it as offline, that means that it can't communicate with Rise Vision. It doesn't necessarily mean that the screen is off. It could be showing a can't connect to Wi-Fi. It could be showing an error message of the OS, whatever. But offline, as you see listed in Rise Vision, that means we can't communicate with it. And if we were to click on it, we'd see, oh, Apple TV is not a good example. But I'll use Newline. We'd see the last screenshot we were able to successfully get from it with a message right there that says, hey, this was the last time we were able to update this screenshot. Now, what about the displays that are online? If they show online and connected, we'll use this Avacor one. If I click on that, notice how it showed that it was loading a screenshot. And if I click this little thing right here to refresh it, it updates and it shows what's on that screen right now. So if someone said to you, hey, there's something weird on this display, I can't tell you how many times someone has said something is weird, that looks wrong, that is not right. That's impossible to know what the person is talking about, what they mean. But if you refresh this, you can get an update. Oh, I see, this is wrong, or oh, I get it, there's a typo or something like that. You'll be able to see that right from the display screenshot itself. So that's the first one that I wanted to go over. Come over to displays, look at the ones that are online, versus the ones that are offline. For the online ones, go into them, take a look at what that display screenshot is showing you. Now, the other way is you've got 100 different displays, right? And you're like, I don't want to go around to every one of these 100 displays to see how the content looks on the screen. I just want to look at it on my computer. How do I do that? What I'll do is I'll use a subcompany include schedule. Wow, this is great. I've got the subcompany include schedule, but I can see it. So I can see what's playing on the displays. You know what? Let me go back to a schedule that has multiple things in here. I can see how this looks, and I've got all these different presentations and it goes from one to the next. That's great. But how am I going to share this with other people? I've got 10 other people that are asking me what's going to be on the display. What you can do is if you scroll down a little bit further, you'll notice that there's this little button here that says share. If you click on share, there's a URL that's in there. It's a little hard to see, but there's a URL that's in there. You can choose to copy that URL, open up a browser tab, and you could email this to someone. They could open it on their phone. They could open it on their computer, whatever. They open up that URL, and this is a preview of that schedule and all of the content that's in it. So it's going to play exactly as it's going to play on a display, with a couple of key differences. The main key difference is notice down here at the bottom, it says powered by Rise Vision. You're only ever going to see that on a preview. You're never going to see that on an actual display. And the other important thing that I always like to remind people of is, let's say someone said, you know what? We don't need the daily motivation one. We can take that out. And you go, okay, I'll take that one out. So you remove it from the, let's go back to our schedule. You remove it from the, there it is, daily motivation. You remove it from here. This URL is never going to automatically update ever. This URL is never going to automatically update. The only way to get it to update is to refresh the whole URL. Once you've refreshed it, now it refreshes with whatever changes. Say you remove that daily motivation, updated the Google Slides, whatever. So I always tell people, don't use that preview like it's a display, but that preview is a great way to know exactly how it's going to look on the screen and gives you the ability to share it with multiple people of, hey, here's how it's going to look like when it's running on the display. Does that help? Does that answer the question?
That helps. We had in one building 3 monitors in different areas, and 2 of the monitors were showing one template correctly, and the third was not. It cut it off at the bottom. And when we went to look at what is showing on that display, it showed it correctly.
That's something I go to the support team for, reach out to the support team. And it can do with a number of different reasons. The most common reason is it's an issue with the monitor. And it can be an issue with this thing called Overscan on monitors. It can be something with, there's been updated drivers on the media player that the monitor doesn't support. There's all sorts of like little one-off things that can be causing it. The good news is if it's showing correctly in Rise Vision is like the computer that you've got, if it's a Windows computer or whatever, is sending it correctly. And it's most likely a monitor problem. And usually those are pretty easy to figure out. The support team can walk you through working on them.
Is there a way to check what the monitor has for time and date on the dashboard versus going to the individual monitor?
Not on here. So if it's like a Windows computer or like a Linux computer or an Android computer or something like that, all you can tell from the Rise Vision side of things, we can tell the IP address and the MAC address and the OS and all that sort of fun stuff, but we can't see the system time and system information. The reason for that is, and I don't want to get too uber technical, is operating systems don't allow apps that information. One of the best, and I say best, kind of worst offenders is like the Fire Sticks. Fire Sticks don't allow apps to reboot Fire Sticks. They don't allow apps to tell the time. They don't allow apps to get all that sort of information. So the reason, and that's just a long way of saying the reason we can't show that information is because the operating system doesn't deliver it.
I understand. We rent the monitors from you. There's no computer or anything. It's just the monitor.
Okay, great. We can tell that information over here as long as the machine is online. And that's actually a great point. That could be something that's added to over here is what is the system time? Because I believe we should be able to show it. The dev guys will know better than me. But yeah, that would be an interesting thing, is to be able to see the current day, current time for the machine as listed as it is on here.
That would be very helpful when we are in a situation like we have, because we were overriding a monitor based on a date and a time in the presentation for 2 hours, and it didn't override. It ends up the TV wasn't, or the monitor was not on the correct date. We figured it out.
Huh. And yeah, and being able to know the date and time right here from the device settings would have been super helpful. So yeah, I'll pass that feedback on to the dev team. I think that's a great idea.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dee. All right, Rob, we have some other good questions. I'm not able to get to them all because we're obviously running right out of time. So Katie, I sent you a message and I said to shoot our support team an email because you're having issues with the streaming. So Rob, thank you so much for being here. This is the first office hours that we've done. I think it was great. Everybody who's here, we're going to be sending out a survey. So let me know in that survey if you like this format, if you want us to do this again. If the people will come, we will keep doing this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, Rob. The recording will be sent out. If you don't already follow us on LinkedIn, you should. We'll have the recording. We'll have little snippets of all of the different questions on there. Just lots of tips and tricks, different things on LinkedIn. We also have a YouTube channel with all of our videos on there. Rob, any final words? Any words of wisdom or anything?
Nothing I can put into 3 minutes. But no, the only thing I always like to share with people is when it comes to building your content, make sure when you get your images like pictures and stuff like that, always make sure that it's scaled to fit your screen. And what I mean by that is, don't use a huge picture that's maybe in portrait mode to put it on a landscape image, because then you have all this wasted black space on either side. You want that picture to be able to take up the entirety of the screen. So one thing I always try to press on people is make sure when you're adding stuff to it that it actually is designed to fit that screen. As long as you're doing that, majority of the time your content's going to look great.
Yeah, perfect. All right. We do have actually in the past webinars, we have one about all about design and making your digital signage look really great. So if you're looking for more design content, you could check out that webinar. And then our next webinar will not be in June. We're going to take a little bit of a break, but we will have one in July. And this one's going to be really fun because we're going to be taking actual customers' content and their display or like the presentations. We're going to be talking about ways that we can improve them and ways that we can use Rise Vision and Canva and different tools to create really great looking design content. That's going to be a really fun one. It's going to be a little bit, it's not going to be K-12 focused, but you can still definitely join if you're at a school. So the next one will be in July, and then we have one in August, and that one is going to be school focused. It's going to be talking about planning your digital signage and social media content for 1 year. So we're going to show you how to do all of that in 1 hour. It's going to be a big session. And then, yeah, check our website for all the other upcoming sessions. Thanks again, everyone, for being here, and we will see you next time.
Bye, everybody.